Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Space Lounge. This is Invader here, intergalactic gaming extraordinaire, ready to serve you another video. And this is a video series where I discuss select video game soundtracks and why I really enjoy them so much. Maybe the games themselves are great, with compelling storylines, gameplay, and boatloads of other things. Or possibly some are not the best known titles, but either way, their soundtracks are definitely killer and worthy of checking out. For this episode, I will be delving into the dieselpunk, Rocketeer-inspired game, Dark Void. Dark Void was developed by now defunct studio Airtight Games and published by Capcom. It was released in January of 2010 and it was met with mixed reviews and sales. Story-wise, the game takes place before World War II and puts you in the role of William Gray, a cargo pilot whose plane is sucked through a portal in the Bermuda Triangle and sends him into a world called the Void. I won't spoil anything, but it does have a pretty cool narrative, and I do suggest you give this game a play. I've done gameplay videos of it, and I think it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I do suggest checking this game out. The soundtrack was created by music composer Bear McCreary. McCreary is well known for his compositions. He's composed the soundtracks for TV shows such as Battlestar Galactica, Outlander, The Walking Dead, and DaVinci's Demons, just to name a few. Dark Void was his first foray into video game music scores. For the Dark Void soundtrack, he recorded the score with a 63-piece ensemble of the Hollywood Studios Symphony at the Eastwood Scoring Stage. During an interview with VGM Online, McCreary stated how much fun he had creating the music for Dark Void, stating that, "I scored a game for Capcom called Dark Void, which was my first video game, and I scored it like it would be my last. I mean, I was so excited to be scoring a game. I grew up playing games in the 8-bit era, in the 16-bit era, and now I was working for Capcom. It was just so thrilling." In Bear's personal blog, he revealed a lot of information about how he came up with the Dark Void tracks, what instruments he used, and his inspirations for them all. Also delving into the differences between creating music between film and video games. He states that, "The differences between scoring TV, film, and video games became glaringly obvious in my first few days of writing Dark Void, back in the fall of 2008. When I watch a rough cut of a film or a TV episode I'm about to score, I can imagine the final product will look like and sound like. I visualize the finished effects, refined edits, and completed sound design, and compose music that will fill all the empty gaps and hit all the right emotional beats. I realized quickly that scoring games is a different experience. I had no completed levels to play, or even remotely finished cinematics to watch. All I had to inspire me were several hundred production sketches that depicted the characters, environments, weapons, and technology of the world, and a detailed script. I decided to stop worrying about hitting specific moments or moods and set out to write simply music to rival the grandeur and mystery of those images. This was the inspirational breakthrough I needed. Themes and instrumental colors flooded my imagination, and I wrote the entire 100-minute score to Dark Void in about 3 weeks. As I composed, I focused on the story and the characters, the reasons I was first drawn to Dark Void. Unlike most games, these characters are rich, deep, with personal arcs that evolve over the course of the game. I felt like the music too should adapt with them, so I wrote a thematic score that develops the melodies as the player progresses, introducing the kind of melodic development common for film and TV scores, but rarely, if ever, found in video games. Compared to a film or TV show, a video game audience has a better chance of internalizing the score. Gamers soak in a score for hours on end. They don't just hear a cue once, but multiple times, creating the ideal environment for threading musical arcs across a story. In fact, I believe thematic scoring in video games has the potential to be even more effective than in film. This philosophy was on the back of my mind as I wrote, and you guys will have to let me know if that works as well as I hope it does. I pitched the idea of thematic development to Capcom and Airtight in our earliest meetings, and everyone was excited about crafting a more sophisticated game score. Dark Void allowed me to explore the musical history of the two cultures at war in the story, the Watchers and the Survivors. The developers had written more backstory than could possibly be fit into the game, so the producers asked me to write music which suggested that these two societies span back for generations, each with their own traditions. Throughout the game, you'll encounter a very eclectic range of instruments and sounds, each used to express the game's factions in varying degrees. For the Survivors, Bear wanted to use a range that included electric violin, an assortment of South American wooden instruments, panpipes, tribal percussion, and the Chinese erhu. The Survivor themes are meant to feel warm and familiar, with catchy melodies evocative of folk songs. In contrast, the Watchers, the evil alien race in the game, are meant to sound menacing, mechanical, and glossy. According to Bear, their melodies are angular and dissonant, and are meant to sound unfamiliar and foreign in nature. Also, certain characters have special themes. Nicholas Tesla has a theme that's supposed to be reminiscent of traditional Russian folk song. To further connect to the theme, a traditional Russian instrument, the balalaika, was used to convey the theme and make a more memorable impact. McCurry commented that the most important track in Dark Void is the main theme, or Will's theme. It's a truly epic piece that really sets the mood for a grand adventure. Speaking of themes, here's a few of my favorite tracks from Dark Void.
I got company!
Copy that!
McCreary makes an interesting comment on music in shooter games, stating that, ultimately, the function of music in action shooter games is to provide tension and excitement, which my score does, but there are musical ideas throughout the gameplay that comment on the deeper narrative concepts. My goal was to bombard gamers with sophisticated music while they played, adding more layers to the story, which they could be soaked in on a subconscious level. And you know what? I wholeheartedly agree with him. While shooters tend to have these moments of intense firefights, a well-done soundtrack playing in the background will linger on and stay with me for a while, making certain segments more memorable and having a lasting impression beyond the game, adding another layer of depth to my appreciation for certain games. Since Dark Void's release, Bear McCreary has went on to compose for such soundtracks such as SOCOM 4, Defiance, and God of War, just to name a few. The Dark Void soundtrack, in my opinion, is phenomenal. It has tracks that really amp up the game itself and overall make it a more enjoyable experience that help mold the atmosphere of the world. Definitely do yourself a favor and check this soundtrack out and give it a listen. And let me know in the comments down below if you've played the game and have a favorite track from it. And hey guys, I'm open to different tastes, so let me know what soundtracks you'd like to possibly be featured on the channel. Also, be sure to share this video out, as YouTube is kind of funny with notifying people about my content, so that would be great if you could. Invader, out.